This podcast serves Middle Tennessee every weekday morning, and it's made possible by member support. Learn how you can make a difference at WPLN.org/support.
This is the Nashvillager Podcast. It's November 19th, 2025. On this day, in 2002, Congress gave its approval to a major organizational shift in one part of the federal government. What had been 22 different agencies and offices were consolidated into one cabinet-level department with a brand new name, Homeland Security. I'm Nina Cardona, and this is your daily digest of what's happening around Middle Tennessee with historical context from Nashville Public Radio, WPLN News. More than 2 decades on, the idea of a Homeland Security department has become really normal. It's easy to forget how much of a political fight there was over the idea back in 2002. After September 11th, everyone agreed that we needed to do a better job of protecting ourselves against threats, but many were unsure whether that kind of consolidation was the right option. At the time, the New York Times described it as, quote, the largest reshuffling of governmental responsibilities since the founding of the Defense Department after World War II. So there were big questions. Like, would it really bring efforts into alignment in a productive way? Would it be a recipe for infighting and turf wars as formerly disparate agencies started bumping up against each other more often? Or could it bring them more into alignment with each other? Would it have the effect of militarizing functions best handled with a more civilian-style approach? Was it more security theater than actual security? When you look at the text of the bill that created Homeland Security, it's clear that the focus was something that everyone was thinking about in that year after September 11th, but that isn't so much at the forefront these days. It says in very plain words, quote, the primary mission of the department is to A, prevent terrorist attacks within the United States, B, reduce the vulnerability of the United States to terrorism, C, minimize the damage and assist in the recovery from terrorist attacks that do occur. It goes on, but you get the picture. Less than a year later, the state of Tennessee followed suit in a way. The governor at the time, Phil Bredesen, issued an executive order creating a cabinet-level Homeland Security position for the state. Now, at that point, it didn't truly reorganize state agencies, but it provided a mechanism for coordinating various official arms of state and local government to work together on public safety. And again, that was overwhelmingly with a focus on the specific threat of terrorism. Now, today, what we see about Homeland Security has a different flavor. It's Secretary Kristi Noem standing in front of a prison full of people who've been deported from the U.S. It's ICE agents carrying out immigration raids. It's a new task force in Nashville. Given that label of Homeland Security, its marching orders are to unite various agencies' efforts at combating gang activity, drug trafficking, and transnational crime, which technically isn't about immigration, but is the kind of focus that tends to share a big old Venn diagram overlap with immigration in terms of who law enforcement monitors, questions, or arrests. I got to thinking about how different the rhetoric around the Homeland Security model has become. That transition from terrorism to illegal immigration. And I started to wonder when that switch occurred. What I quickly realized after digging around just a little bit is that the two were connected right from the start. In fact, it's kind of in that same New York Times article that I cited before, which was published right after President George W. Bush signed the Homeland Security Act into law. It says that at that point in 2002, one of the most, as they put it, troubled components of the mishmash of agencies being bundled together was Immigration and Naturalization Service. The investigation into how the September 11th hijackers were able to come into this country, attend flight schools, and otherwise prepare for the attack while on American soil uncovered some pretty significant gaps in the way records were kept at Immigration and Naturalization. One of the first things the new Department of Homeland Security did when it got up and running in 2003 was to create a new enforcement division to really tighten things up. Mostly, the talk about it was that this group could keep an eye on folks coming in from countries where terrorist cells were organizing with an eye to kill Americans. And if they did make it here, that group had the tools it needed to kick them out. That division was called ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. ICE was created with organizational tools and power structures meant to root out terrorism That was baked into the very start of Homeland Security. But over time, as the threat of terrorism has seemed more under control, those same tools and structures have been redirected to primarily focus on folks coming across our southern border. In just a few minutes, this week's edition of What Where Wednesday. That's coming up after the newscast.
We know that local government isn't the only part of your life.
Like the mayor, I know that city government isn't the only thing you're concerned with.
We are still struggling to find affordable housing.
Particularly with this bus stop.
That's one of the unique challenges with my business.
I'm WPLN's Metro reporter Cynthia Abrams. I'm working to break down topics like transit, housing, and local government to make sure that when you are thinking about Metro, you're getting the full story. Follow my latest stories at WPLN.org.
Here's the latest from WPLN News. A ruling from a Tennessee judge would block the current use of the National Guard to fight crime in Memphis. But for now, that decision is on hold while the government has a few days to respond. Since October, Guard members have been part of a task force ordered by President Trump that also includes federal and state agencies. More than 2,500 people have been arrested on charges from drugs and weapons violations to immigration warrants. Davidson County Chancellor Patricia Head Moskow sided with Democratic officials in Memphis who sued. They argue Governor Bill Lee cannot deploy the Guard to the city for civil unrest unless there's a rebellion or invasion. Even then, he'd need sign-off from state lawmakers. In a statement, Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris called the injunction a positive step while noting it does not take effect right away. Meanwhile, a declaration from Lieutenant Colonel Dallas Clements defending the Guard's presence reveals the number of troops deployed is far higher than previously reported. Last week, Memphis police told news outlets they expected the Guard to increase its presence from around 150 to 350. The Tennessee Lookout reports, as of Friday, the actual number of troops in the task force was 719, according to Clements. Court filings also revealed that the federal government has entered into millions of dollars of contracts to feed and house National Guard troops in Memphis. A memo from September stated that the annual cost of activating 1,000 guardsmen would exceed $200 million. Most Americans say that colleges should teach students how to think critically, but not what to think. That's according to the Vanderbilt Unity poll, which takes the pulse of Americans' attitudes towards higher education. WPLN's Camelia Burris has more.
Both progressives and MAGA voters agree that a college education helps people to think more logically, process information, and contribute to society in a meaningful way. But a divide comes when deciding if higher education is worth the investment of money and time. Just 40% of MAGA voters think college is worth it, compared to 76% of Democrats. But most Americans, on both sides of the aisle, don't want the government deciding what's taught. Still, respondents have their own opinions about what should be in the curriculum. Most believe that colleges should cover the history of slavery in America, but just over a third of respondents say there should be classes covering topics like gender identity, sexual orientation, and gay marriage. The poll also showed that many Americans distrust higher education, with many saying that most colleges don't align with their values or serve the public interest. Camelia Burris, WPLN News.
Vanderbilt's Life Flight service remains grounded after a deadly crash that killed a nurse earlier this month. A social media post from the Emergency Rescue and Medical Transport Service says it has been on a safety stand down since November 8th. The message says the group is performing thorough inspections, debriefing crew members, and conducting what they call confidence flights. So far, it's not clear when the service will resume. Fort Campbell is getting a major infrastructure upgrade. On the same day the federal government reopened, Clarksville now reports that $56 million were allocated to build a new air traffic control tower and hangar. Those facilities support the Army's 101st Airborne Division and 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment. At 50 years old, the current tower is one of the Army's oldest. The new hangar will add space for additional heavy-lift Chinook helicopters. Well, President Donald Trump may be gearing up to make his first licensing deal since 2017, and it looks like the property could be in Nashville. The Nashville Business Journal reports one of the Trump Organization's companies has registered an LLC called DT Marks Nashville with the Tennessee Secretary of State Records. And before that, Forbes reports 2 entities using the DT Marks Nashville name were formed in Delaware. That follows the naming convention and usual order of operations for new ventures built by other developers but licensed under the Trump brand, like Trump International Hotel in Oman. Before his first term as president, Trump expressed a business interest in Nashville. When he came here to speak to the National Rifle Association convention in 2015, he said he thought the city was ready for a 5-star super luxury hotel. And in 2017, there was some indication that he'd signed a deal for a hotel here. In the years since, multiple luxury hotels unaffiliated with Trump have either opened or been announced. Nashvillians can now get help with legacy planning. That is, creating wills or trusts or setting up life insurance policies for free. The initiative comes from the Financial Empowerment Center, which offers no-cost, one-on-one financial counseling to Nashville residents. Mayor Freddie O'Connell says estate planning is a natural progression of the work the center already does.
We've helped Nashvillians eliminate millions of dollars of bad debt and increase helpful savings. When they're increasing those savings, the next step to that is making sure that those savings can be passed on to the next generation, next of kin.
Only around 24% of Americans have a will, according to a study by Caring.com. When someone dies without a will, it can lead to family disputes or leave it to the state to decide how to distribute their assets. Well, the drive south from Nashville toward the beach can feel like a chore or like working 9 to 5. And Tennessee icon Dolly Parton wants to do something about that. Parton is partnering up to rebrand the Tennessee travel stop in Cornersville. The new look, along with changes to food and retail offerings, will be ready by next summer. WSMV reports it's meant to be proof of concept for similar locations around the state. It could attract folks who want more than the typical gas station along the stretch of Interstate 65 between Nashville and Birmingham. Its competitors include Buc-ee's across the Alabama line, known for the siren songs of brisket, tank tops, and clean bathrooms. You might just have to stop at both. You'll find more news anytime at WPLN.org. The nickname Music City can mean different things, different music, depending on who you're talking to. Well, Marquise recently talked to some people who are planning an event all about the OG local musicians, and I'll let him tell you about it.
I'm Marquise Munson, here with another edition of Nashville Public Radio's What Where Wednesday, keeping you up to date with the happenings in Nashville this week. On Thursday night, Margot Price performs at the Ryman. Also on Thursday, Jizza is at Skydeck on 5th and Broadway, and the Criticals at Exit Inn. On Friday night, WNXP presents Twin at the Blue Room, and on Saturday night, Tristan performs at Soft Junk. For more events, head over to WNXP.org/events.
You better believe it's still sitting pretty in the back of the bed, nesting leaves. Oh, I do. I could always fast again, but a breath in his own look.
This week for What Where Wednesday, we feature Indig Nash, an Indigenous arts festival with events starting tonight through Sunday, taking place at various locations from the Forge, Frisk Arts Museum, and the OG Basement. The fest honors Native voices that shape culture today, featuring visual art, music, film, comedy, and storytelling.
My name is Shayna Hobbs. I am Stockbridge Muncie Mohican and grew up here in Nashville, and I'm one of the co-founders of Indig Nash. I'm an artist musician as well. And honestly, the vision for Indig Nash is something I feel like I've had for years inside me. And then several years ago at a local powwow here, connected with some other Native artists and musicians and found out that they shared a similar vision. And the more I talked to Natives, the more I saw, wow, this is a need, especially here in Nashville, with Nashville being Music City. The deeper roots that are here, even the musical roots, come from Indigenous people, because this originally was our land. And there's a lot of dark history here too, with the Trail of Tears. And so it just felt like, you know what, maybe we need to create something ourselves. The idea was, we truly, truly love going to powwows. There's nothing like it when you're an Indigenous person. It feels like you're safe and you're at home. And it's one of the very few places that we feel that way as Indigenous people, and where we actually feel like we're celebrated and we're seen But my idea was like, man, what if we could expand that? What if we could not only carry the traditions and that kind of family reunion vibe, but what if we could amplify it and continue to highlight Native artists today and young people and youth and think about the future as well? As Natives, honestly, society has tried to erase us in every way, and they've not been successful. We're still here. It's important that our voices and our art and our music and our creations are heard. And so this kind of all came together. It's like, man, what if we did this festival? We could have art, we could have film, we could have fashion. And we just started dreaming it up. And honestly, we didn't even really know what we were doing last year. It happened, and Creator and Spirit blessed it. And it all came together magically. The beautiful thing was to see the way the Nashville community embraced it. And that was shocking to me, and it actually makes me really emotional. I've continued to feel very blessed by that and blown away, because growing up here in Nashville as a mixed Indigenous girl with an Indigenous father who was constantly berated, he's a musician, and I just saw how mistreated he was, and there's so much racism. I'm encouraged by the awareness that's here. Instead of feeling like people hate us and want to kick us out of places or make fun of us, I'm seeing this response where people are like, wow, I want to support you, or I want to learn more about Indigenous people. So the beautiful blend of this fest is that we're not only creating community and a space for Indigenous voices, but we are educating and we're bringing community with all people. And that's the heart of Indigenash. It's like, we want everybody to feel welcome there. We have some wellness sessions we're doing with Patagonia. Super excited about. We'll have the art show openings. We have a really cool dinner that we're doing with Bankers Alley Hotel. Oh, the Frist Museum is where we're doing the artisan market this year. So that's going to be really incredible, because last year that was at the Forge. So we're excited about partnering with the Frist for that. We have some powerful, big mover and shaker Indigenous people that are partnering with us this year, from Chef Sean Sherman. He's been featured in so many beautiful publications and different shows recently, and we're honored that he's going to come and be with us to release his new book, Turtle Island. That's huge. We've got Eagle Blackbird. He's big time on TikTok, Native comedian, but also like activist and motivational speaker. We have all these different influencers. We have people in film, Native film folks that are coming out. We're kind of blown away. We're like, whoa, you want to come like be with us? We're just like this little baby festival, but please do come on board. So it's been powerful to feel the Indigenous community support us too and be excited. They want to be a part of this, because I think they see that it's a fire we've started in a beautiful way, a powerful fire. It's only going to get bigger. I feel it.
For more information about Indig Nash Fest and other events happening this week, visit WNXP.org. My name is Marquise Munson, and thank you for listening to another edition of What Where Wednesday.
Thanks for listening to the Nash Villager podcast. We take this look at what's going on in Nashville every weekday. If you like, go ahead and subscribe on your favorite podcasting app and tell a friend, or give us a mention on your socials. It really helps get the word out. And of course, everything at WPLN News is listener supported. You can become a member at WPLN.org. And that's it for today. Thanks so much for listening. Let's make this day a good one, and we'll catch back up tomorrow.